Oh, sorry. Hello and good evening. How are you guys doing? Well, I'm doing good too. Thanks for asking. Okay, so before we start, let's have a word of prayer. Let's pray. Our kind Lion Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the gift of life for us. Thank you for guiding and protecting us, Lord. As we're about to start, please give us wisdom and guidance. And also, Lord, please be with me and help this be a message. Ask that you guide us and protect us this night. In your name I pray. Amen. So, for those of you who don't already know, my name is Ame. Ame Michelle Rumba, that's my whole name. And I'm a senior here at Andrews. I'm in MLS program. But I came here just about a semester ago, and that's when I started school over here. So, about a year ago, no, not a year ago, like 2 years ago, I was deciding on where I wanted to go as a student missionary. I ended up choosing to go to Mexico. I went to the University of Montemorelos. I was a teacher there in the Language Institute, which is part of the education department. University of Montemorelos? Okay. And so a lot of things happened for me to go there. A lot of things happened while I was there, before I went there, and after I came back. But I feel like for you to actually understand what the experience meant to me, you'd have to know a little bit about my story and how I got here, or basically a little bit. I'm not gonna tell about my whole childhood, but like just a little bit. So, I was born in Burundi. That's where my whole family is from. But my parents are missionaries, so at the age of 4, we moved countries. I went to live in Kenya, and that's where I spent the bulk of my childhood. Now, my parents, my parents of course, my parents are Adventists, and my grandfather was a pastor too. So I kind of just grew up Adventist, right? And also, because my parents were missionaries, I kind of just got brought up into that world. Didn't kind of choose it, but it's kind of brought on me. But, growing up, my parents worked in administration. So, I didn't really get, when people talk about mission trips, right? They go and they erect churches and, stuff like that. Or they go and build like water pumps, at least that's what my friends tell me, right? But that's not the experience I had. Because my parents worked in administration, so they worked on a campus. We like, now that I think about it, I feel like I was kind of sheltered from everything that was happening around me. Because, we lived in this neighborhood where, we had like a 60,000 volt fence around the whole neighborhood. We had like guards everywhere. We had like, concrete, and everything, It didn't seem like I was really living in like the mission field. Until one time, my parents, they sent us, we went back home for one of the vacations. And it was then that actually, I realized like what was happening around me. I still think about it to this day. It was just a very strong experience for me in memory. We went to visit my grandparents, and I lived in the city, so there wasn't. I got everything that I wanted in the city. At least got everything I wanted to see, and that was what I was used to growing up. But we went to visit my grandparents on my mom's side, back then, and they lived in this. They lived in the, what's the word? A polite word, like the countryside. Yes, they lived in the countryside. They lived in the countryside. So we went to visit them, and it was much different from what I was used to in the city. Just to give you an idea, it's if you've seen a WHO or UNICEF ad for like give, that's pretty much what it looked like, right? And for the first time, I kind of got an idea of what was going on around me. My grandparents, my grandparents, just like any other grandparents, would like spoil us. But after a while of being there, I got bored. I got bored because like first I talked to my parents about adult stuff, and I was a child. I think I was about like 6, 7 at the time, and so my cousin and I, we snuck out of the house and we went down the street, and we started playing with like the neighborhood kids. or we at least tried to. But I remember what I remembered so vividly was, we went and we tried to run where we were racing, because like, I mean, where my mother's from, they're runners. They live in like very high altitude, so like their O2 sat and like their binding capacity is like very good, so they can run for long distances without getting tired. So that was kind of a thing we're doing, we'd run. But then we got to like a bunch of we got to a point where we were trying to go with other children, right? And we were trying to play with them and everything, and they just didn't want to. It didn't really appeal to me, but the kids around me, like, they didn't have shoes on, and some of them had tattered clothes. Others didn't even have like shirts or anything, but they were just playing around. For me, that never really clicked until, and it was just like something happened with one of my friends. Well, I just met them, but they were friends. You know how kids are. We met, and I was asking him, like, why aren't you coming to play with us? Why aren't you running? And it's like, then he told me, it's like, I'm tired, and it's like my feet hurt. And then that's when I just appeared to me, like, just look. And I looked, and I looked at his feet, right? And they were kind of like, he was walking on the palms of his feet, and his like toes were elevated. And I just looked back, and his feet were like black, but it wasn't like the black from dirt. It was black from like necrotized flesh, right? And I'm not gonna go into details because I don't know how many people can stomach it. But I went back to my mother, where she was with my grandparents, and asked her, why are they like this? Why is this happening? And she told me, it's like, they can't afford. I can't afford it. And back in my mind, I was 6. I didn't really understand the value of money, and I asked them, why can't they just go to the hospital? Because in my mind, that's what happened when you were sick. You went to the doctor to get treated. I didn't realize that, for me, when I was sick, I'd just go, and my parents would worry, be the ones to take care of it. When I was sick, but for them, that wasn't really an option. And my mom told me, it's like, I can't really afford. They can't really afford to do it. And so that kind of stuck with me, And I told my mom, right, like, I'm going to be a doctor who can treat people for free, and so I can help, try and do the best that I can. But in retrospect, I looked at it and I was like, it was kind of like a very juvenile way of thinking, because I didn't really understand. I had a very naive and juvenile outlook of the world. I didn't really understand how difficult things were. But I still said, I want to be a doctor who treats people for free, and that was kind of what I wanted to do. And throughout my whole childhood, that's all I said. It kind of became like an anthem, I started saying it and just kind of imprinted it myself. But now years later, I was in high school, and by the time I was in high school, I was now much more aware of what was going on around me. I remember my junior year of high school, during one summer, I went to teach. There was a slum, right? I remember I said we had like this gated community that was like right outside of it, like a couple of, we used kilometers down the street. There was a slum that I used to drive by it every day, and I never really noticed it. But then I noticed it. And so the pastor at my high school, a friend and I, we were there, because my high school was in the place that I lived at. So I went and I was working in the registrar's office for a summer job, and then the registrar was the pastor's wife, and then he came and told us, if you want to volunteer, you can go teach at the school. They don't have enough teachers. And so I went there, and I taught kids who were like my age, but they were in like 8th grade. I was about to graduate academy, and I was teaching kids who were older than me. And it's just those kind of things that made you like realize like there's so much to do out there that we don't really see, or like maybe for me, I was too comfortable where I was to even notice. And so, that's kind of, I did the summer, and we had a celebration afterwards, and we raised funds for the school after we were done, because we had to go back to school, and it kind of felt good. But after that, I came to the States for school. And to be honest, school for me was pretty much always easy, like since high school down. But then for the first time, I went to college and my first class was Gen Bio, which I think it's called Fundamentals of Biology here. And that was the worst class I'd ever taken. I remember my first test, I flunked my first test. I got like a C on it, and I was so depressed about it. I felt so bad about it. And I feel like at that point, that's when I realized how hard. I can't really say I want to be a doctor, I want to be a doctor. I realized how hard it was going to be. And so I did it. So I went, I hopped in that pre-med lifestyle, I was focusing on school, and I was a scholarship, I still am a scholarship kid, so I had to work too, and also try to maintain some semblance of a social life. And so I had to do all these things, and every single semester I was always busy. And it wasn't until my junior year, which is when I was deciding to go to student missionary, that I realized that I feel like when people ask me why I wanted to be a doctor, it kind of felt like a reflex answer that I was giving from my childhood. I realized through those years of college, I was practically just I was just going with the motion. I didn't really understand what I was doing. I was just doing something I was used to doing. And so I actually had to ask myself, what do I want to do? Am I just going to ride on my parents' coattails? I always said my parents are missionaries. Like, yay, that's what I want to do. But I never really knew what that meant for me. And so I decided to go as a student missionary. I wasn't really sure. I had so many things that was going on. But I said, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. And I also got really comfortable here in the States. I felt like I've kind of forgot what was going on back home, what I had grown up doing, and I just gotten comfortable with the comfort I experienced here. But so I decided to leave, and I left. And to be honest, in retrospect, I look back at it, and that was probably the best thing I had ever done. Going out as a missionary, especially a student missionary, for me was the greatest thing. And I'm not trying to oversell it, but there was also hard times. I remember one of the biggest things, there's a lot of things, but just in sequential order. When I got there, I didn't know a lick of Spanish. The only Spanish I knew was Dora Spanish, the uno, dos, tres, that was all that I knew. So I got to the airport, I couldn't speak to anyone, and even the person who was asked to come and pick me up, I feel like he just knew who I was because I was the only black person at the airport. So it's I was the one you're supposed to come pick up, right? It was pretty obvious. So we just kind of those nods were yeah, it's me. And then I went in and I was it kind of worked. And I got there and I toured the campus, and it was pretty nice because one of my coworkers was asked to help me because she spoke English. And so we toured the campus and we walked around, and she showed me where everything was, like the cafeteria. But I forgot. The next day I forgot what the cafeteria was, and so I was really hungry. I couldn't go get food because I couldn't even speak the language. I was going to ask one of the people to come and help me, but I couldn't do it. And so I stayed inside my room, and I just didn't do anything until lunch. But there was more. Even when I started teaching, one of the biggest things, I taught everyone. I taught the professors, I taught college kids, I taught academic kids, and I taught middle schoolers and some little kids as well. The professors were difficult, I was teaching people who had PhDs. I hadn't even finished my bachelor's yet. I was like, what am I doing, right? It was very intimidating. There were professors who were used to teaching, and I was just like this 20-year-old not knowing what to do. And then the college kids also had their problems, not them having the problems, problems with them was I had to be their friend outside of class and then be their teacher. And then where I was kind of balancing where that line was, between friend and teacher, and not getting too comfortable. And then the little kids, they were probably the hardest and the best in the sense that they had so much energy, but they were very honest. They were extremely honest. So they taught me a lot about myself and just them and everyone else around me. I would see, since I was while I was their teacher, I was kind of an authority figure for them, and I could see them copying things that I would do. And it's well and good because you're oh, this guy's like me. But then it's when you started seeing things that they were doing about you that were not good, then it puts yourself out there. And then I had to look at myself, and then just looking at my personality being reflected in the kids and some of the things that I did, I got to a point where I realized that maybe the person that I am right now isn't probably the best. I had to look at myself and see what I was teaching the people around me, people who were looking up to me. And at that point, I looked at my life as a whole and who I was, and I was like, oh, maybe this is not the person that I want to be. And I had to start working on it, which was part of the good things that I learned about it. Because learning about myself was a very important part, and I feel like it was very beneficial. But also learning about God was the next big thing. Like I said before, I was raised Adventist. I had a very factual understanding of what God was. I knew the Bible factually. I knew Jesse begot David, David begot Solomon, Solomon begot Absalom, that kind of stuff. Those Bible quizzes, bro, I was 10 over 10. But when it came to having God on a personal level, I knew God loves me because the Bible told me so, not because I felt it. When you had to teach God to other people, then you had to see where God stands in your life. And that was probably the best thing that I ever learned while I was there. While serving people, I ended up being served, You think, I thought I was going to be, when I was going as a missionary, you're told you're going to help people. I thought I was going out there to, be a world changer, to make a difference. And the difference ended up happening in me. And that was probably one of the bestest things that I ever got out of it, knowing God. I look back at it and I feel like that year away, I would probably not trade it for everything. And I said going there, I just went there, but there's a lot of things that happened. Particularly for me as a pre-med, I had so many excuses. The first thing's like, oh God, I can't afford it. God was like, no, I got you. I didn't pay a cent to go. I don't know, just people ended up just donating, and I ended up not paying anything at all. The second thing was this is throwing off my pre-med timeline. I worked so hard for it. I'm going to be a year behind. All my friends are going to go. I'm going to take the MCAT and everything. And when I went there, I realized that, I look back at my college and I feel like I didn't have fun. I didn't enjoy it. I looked at my life as a pre-med, it felt like a rat race. I felt like I got that year away helped me breathe. I felt, when I was there and I didn't have to study, I started realizing how somewhat depressed, or I wasn't really in a good mental state I was. It was just, my whole life was school. And then another thing was my immigration status. I was like, I can't leave the country. I'm an international student. How am I going to get back in? And it's also very expensive to start the whole process over again. I didn't end up paying for anything as well. And when I walked into the consulate to renew my visa, the consular officer was pretty chill. He was just like, oh, cool. Then he made a joke about, the Tennessee Titans not being able to in the FNL win anything. And then he was stamped it and he just gave it back to me, and that was it. It was so quick. That, at least for me, the first time I got here, it was much harder than that, but it was very quick. So every single excuse that I gave God, I can't do it. He was like, I have your back. I got you. The choice is yours. You just have to accept to go. And so that's another lesson that I learned. There's never a mountain too big for God. There's never anything that is too big for God to deal with. I had so many excuses. I still have excuses right now. And I feel like God gave me an answer to them, and not just to them, but to questions I didn't even know I had. And that was pretty much everything. And so now we go back to the beginning where I was asked, what is a world changer? Going through my childhood, I always thought, with my mom and everything, I always thought that I needed to do something big. I needed to move a mountain. I needed to find the cure for cancer. I needed to invent a flying car to make a difference in the world, right? But, after my year away, I realized that I feel like I got the answer to the question of what a world changer is to me. A world changer, if you want to be one, I feel like it starts with you. I feel like you have to be the change that you want to see. I know sometimes it feels like our little small actions, they feel like it's just a drop in the ocean, right? It doesn't really mean anything. However, through my experiences away, it's the smallest things that I did that people right now would text me and be like, oh, you know what, when you did this, it was good. When you did this, it really meant a lot to me. Now, I have tons of stories from my year. It was tons of them, but I feel like if I kept on going, we'd be here all night. So I just kind of chose to summarize it and be like, I gave a lot of excuses, right? And God said, you know, as long as you have me, right? As long as you're willing to follow, then I could use you to do something. You know, it may seem like a drop in the ocean for you, but with God, that drop in the ocean can cause waves, can cause tsunamis in people's lives. And so, summary is, you know, a world changer to me is you and it's me. I feel just like Corey said, we're all world changers, and I very much agree with it. I mean, before even he heard it and he said it, I was just like, you know what? We agree. And I was just like, God says, my favorite verse is Jeremiah 29:11, and it says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. But you know, I feel like everything just comes with a condition, and the only condition is for you to accept it. So, my name is Ame Michelle Rumpo, and I'm a world changer. The question is, do you want to be a world changer too?
Whoa. Talk about stories that just send chills when you get to hear them. I could listen to these things all day, all night. You'll hear about mine on Friday. Okay, so we'll get there. But just want to thank you again for sharing your experience. And the one thing that stuck with me is, what's your response when you see the things going on in the world that you don't like? Many of us don't think twice about these things. Talked about driving past a slum area and only noticing it so much later into his experience. What is our response? Is it possible that even here on Andrew's campus, we could be walking past a situation that could use our help and that we can benefit? Is it possible? What are we looking at? What are we trying to do? We are world changers. And if we walk by and ignore it, we're not moving the needle in a positive direction. But if we stop and take the time to look up and do something about it, we can make that positive change. I want to encourage you as well. A lot of people think that when you go to be a missionary, the only thing you can do is teach, or what's the common ones they talk about? Teaching and what? Medical? Yeah, like a lot of people think those are your only options. Well, I'm here to tell you that you can do anything out there. The excuse about whatever your major is and, oh, that's just going to be a waste of time, it doesn't match with anything I'm trying to do, that's completely false. I got a whole list of them right here. How many of you like working out? Okay, we got a couple hands going up. I see you. We got something for you. There's personal trainers in Egypt. All right, you want to go do some personal training as a missionary? You can do that in Egypt. And I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of dope. I didn't know about that until I looked at the list here. I might have to do it myself, you know what I'm saying? Might have to do it myself. Massage therapy, okay? I didn't know there was a call for this, but there's that as well. If you want to go practice your PT program, they do that, right? You can do that in Egypt. It's there as well. Go catch up with the pyramids and stuff. If you want to stay close to home but not too far, you can be an assistant dean anywhere in the United States. There's opportunities. Any of you do graphic design? Tech. You think, oh, I can't do a missionary because the only thing I know is 0, 1 + 1, 0 = 3. None of those in the house? It's all right. They're probably online, right? Bad joke. My bad. But we got something for you too. Web designers in Chile. All right, you can go to South America and get you some really cool experiences, and hopefully you can get outside a little bit more while you're down there. If you like plants, you don't like plants? Hey, all right, a lot of y'all like plants. Okay, to each their own. But you want to do gardening, Milo Academy. You can go do some of that. Even if you like filing papers or doing office work, I know there's some people who like that too, more power to you. You can do that anywhere in the world. Why not go somewhere else to do that? And I even got one here, research. People who like to stay in the books. Those maybe in the medical field or whatever field you might be that involves research. You can do research anywhere in the world as well. Why not go and do it somewhere other than here? If I had to ask you to raise your hands if you think the most fun experience is staying at Andrews University for 4 years in a row, how many of you are raising your hands? Oh, see, I got you. All but one are telling me that you would like to go and do something different during your time here. That's what you told me by keeping your hands down. So thank you. We'll be keeping our eyes out for you. But anyways, I just want to thank you for being a part of this first episode of World Changers Week. Once again, I'm your host, Corey Johnson. And one final thing before we go. If you see this super fly hoodie I'm rocking, all right, we out here trying to get my mask out of the way so y'all can see it in the cameras. We out here because we out here. We got the world representing for the World Changers, and on the back, what do we got? Go. That's the mission right there. You wanna cop one of these? Come talk to any of us in the front, and we got a little fundraiser going for the Student Missions Club, and you can procure yourself one of these Superfly hoodies. But yes, again, just want to thank you for your time here. There will be something on the screens for you to scan to get your credit on your way out, and we got a couple little double feature coming up for tomorrow night. We got Kyra right here in the front row. She's going to be sharing about her experience, and also Nehemiah Sittler. I don't know if he's here this evening, but he will be here to share his experience as well. Come through, catch some more stories, and I hope that you continue to be inspired to decide how you're going to be a world changer. It's already a fact that you are. It's up to you to decide how you're going to change the world. So thank you again for coming. Thank you all online for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow night.